Hey, how you
Hey, how are
doing?
you?
Good.
Good. How are you?
All right. All right. So, let's start. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Insight Plug. Today's guest is an actor, writer, filmmaker, and a SAG AFTRA member, and he's a founder of Rain and Neon Productions. Please welcome Ken Holmes. All right.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
Eh, so how did you get started or pursuing filmmaking or just pursuing acting and writing and everything like that?
Well, I've been acting since I was a little kid, but I really got bit by the acting bug when I was about 12 years old. I auditioned for a college production of Shakespeare's The Merry Wives of Windsor, and I got the role of Robin, who's this little page. And to me, as a 12-year-old, these college students were like professional actors. It was like being on Broadway. And I just thought it was the most amazing thing. I just fell in love with the theater. And like I loved everything about theater, just the ephemeral nature of it, being on stage, how fleeting it all was. And I was hooked. I did more college shows and I also did some community theater. And then I went on to get into when I got into college, I majored in theater arts with a minor in writing, and that's when I kind of got into script writing a little bit. And I did a couple student movies, but it wasn't until I graduated college in 2009 that I started getting into movies a little bit more. A friend suggested that we audition for a movie out in Baltimore, and so we traveled out to Maryland and auditioned and got into this horror movie. And then the two of us just kind of traveled around the states auditioning for movies. I sort of thought of it a little bit as like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, like how they would travel around and do stuff together. So it was kind of fun to just have a friend, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling.
Okay. Um, excuse me. Look for my questions here. Okay, here. Here's one. Excuse me. So, what roadblocks did you face when you started pursuing your acting career?
What did I face?
What roadblocks did you face when you pursued your
Oh,
acting career?
well, that's a good question. I think the biggest roadblock was location for me, actually, because I come originally from, I mean, I was born in New Jersey, but I grew up in a kind of a small town in Vermont where there wasn't really a lot of opportunity. There really wasn't a lot of any opportunity for film, hardly any. And there was some opportunity for theater, which is, I did a lot of community theater, but nothing really professionally. And it was, I made a lot of friends, but not really, not not too many people within the industry who could, help me take it a step further. So that was really the biggest roadblock. When I became SAG eligible. Well, actually, I was SAG eligible for a while, for a long time before I joined, because there's so much non-union work where I was, that it would be pointless to join. I would kind of be shooting myself in the foot because I wouldn't be able to work much.
Mhm.
But when I joined SAG, I think within or I guess it was the following year, I moved to New York, and that was very helpful. And now it's, obviously there's a lot more work professionally.
So, so you are an actor, a filmmaker, and also a you just have so many layers, I guess. My question is, how were you able to kind of balance all of that? Because it almost seems like you're a what do they call it, jack of all trades. Did you
Hmm.
focus on being an actor this one year and then focus on producing the other? How do you balance that out for? um, for people who might be doing being a producer and actor and director and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent question. It it's not always easy, especially because I'm a very like focused person. I have trouble
Mm-hmm.
focusing on many things at once. Um, I would say I'm primarily an actor, but so that's kind of my main focus. But I also feel like you got to make your own opportunities in this life and in this industry, and that's why I started doing these other things like the writing. And writing has always been something I've loved ever since I was a kid. Like even before I knew how to write, I would dictate stories to my parents, and they would transcribe them. And so I just felt like I love characters. I love creating characters and telling stories. So why not write? And originally I would write things and give them to other people to direct. I still do that sometimes. But then I've just tried my hand at directing when I have time, and fully knowing that I'm primarily an actor and a writer, but I just want to know how to do as many things as possible. And a lot of it, you learn along the way. You got to give yourself permission to fail. You got to give yourself
Yeah.
permission to, you're not going to be amazing at everything the first time. So you just got to give yourself permission. And I guess that's been the biggest thing I've got to tell myself, and that I would tell other people too.
Okay. So what is the greatest achievements um that you had so far in your career, in your entertainment industry career?
Well, I guess biggest the first film I did that was a big deal to me was called Cold in July. It was I was an actor in it. I played a burglar, and I got to act with Michael C. Hall, who's best known for Dexter, and 6 Feet Under. He's done a lot of things though, and so that was kind of a big deal for me getting to act opposite him, because I was in the opening scene just with him, and it went on to Sundance and still plays on TV sometimes. So that was my first big role, or big not big role,
Hmm.
but big movie. That was in 2014, and I went out to Sundance too and got to network, and that's just an experience I'll never forget. So as far as acting goes, I would say that was my biggest, or at least my first big movie.
Okay.
As far as filmmaking goes, though, I would say I've done two things that I'm especially proud of. One is Old Hearts Cafe, which is a web series. I'm not really doing it anymore, but I did some episodes I'm very proud of. And it went on to win awards. I wanted to play multiple characters, but I basically just played one character, who is named Marcus Montage. People think
Okay.
that he's based on me, but he is a little bit, but not as much as people think. And he's a dishwasher who has aspirations to be a filmmaker. And I actually did do dishwashing for a little while, and of course I like filmmaking, so I guess I see why people think he's based on me, but he's not completely. And that's actually a comedy, kind of a experimental comedy. And then the other project I'm actually still doing it. It's called Zoom Shorts, and I co-created it with my dad, Burnham Holmes, and our friends Karen Klami. And we've done, I guess, about 24 episodes so
Oh wow.
far. And that's been the biggest ongoing project of my filmmaking career. It was born out of COVID, and we were just like, we got to do something. We're going crazy here. We weren't able to be on set. So Karen came up with the idea of improvised stories, told over Zoom, but we wouldn't have the boxes like we have right now. It would be more of like a monologue. So it'd be just imagine me talking and then you chime in eventually and like, okay, you're going to let me talk
Mm-hmm.
now? Okay, now
Yeah.
here's what I think. And so that's kind of how it started. But since then, we've been experimenting more and making it more cinematic, I guess. But originally, it was just all completely improvised monologues, and that's just been a blast.
Okay. And that
And
came
they're
out
all different genres.
different
Oh yeah,
genres.
it came out of COVID.
COVID. So yeah, I wanted to segue to that when you said focus on acting. So you zooming in onto the short films. So it is a short series. You said short series.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom in
Yeah.
24 episodes. Can you tell me more? So it's a comedy or
There are comedies. There are also dramas. They're all different genres,
genres? Okay.
and they have different characters in each one. So each episode, they're basically short films. Um, so each episode tells a different story, focuses on different characters. There are reoccurring themes. Like for instance, a character will be referenced to as in another episode or a location, like, oh, the Old Hearts Cafe, that which is a fictional cafe in my universe, that will
Mm-hmm.
be referenced a few times. But overall, they're different stories, different films, and each one stands alone on its own. It's primarily drama, but there's also comedy, and I definitely want to experiment more. Maybe do a horror one eventually because
Okay.
I mean my roots are in horror, so that would be kind of fun. But so far, it's been drama, comedy, and also some romance too.
Okay. So how was the creative process for episode one? What was can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, episode one was actually, so we take turns writing and directing it, the
Mm-hmm.
the three of us. I did episode one. And it was called The Closing Line, which I thought was kind of clever because it was the first episode. So and begin with the end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was entirely improvised, but there was a an outline written. So I had I gave the outline to the first actress, and she would improvise lines based on what I gave her, and she could do it as many takes as she wanted.
Okay.
And then I would send her recording to the next person along with an outline, and they would improvise their response. And it was about comedians, and it was about a young comedian who her girlfriend was her ex-girlfriend was accusing her of stealing her jokes, her material.
Mm-hmm.
And then um and then somebody, her current girlfriend, got on the call and started telling the ex to go away. And then it ended with the main character, the one that everyone was been talking to, and we don't see her until the end. And she's gonna get her life together. She kind of descended. She was, I guess, sober for a long time. She descended back into drugs and alcohol, and then she decided to get clean. She thinks she's gonna get her life together. um, but then a mysterious visitor walks in, her brother, who has been a shady character in her life. He walks in, and then it kind of ends ambiguously.
Okay.
So that was the first episode. It was the most minimalist of all the episodes. It literally was just monologues, no music, um, just monologues. Everybody self-recorded, because we were, quarantining.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a pretty good episode, and
That
I'm
sounds like a
proud of the job
really
that everybody
unique
did.
type of show.
Thank you.
Where can we find that? Um
So
like
every episode is actually available on YouTube.
YouTube? Okay.
I also have some of the episodes are on Vimeo, but every episode is on YouTube.
Okay.
So if you look up Zoom Shorts, you can watch them all. And
Oh.
we're also, I want to give a quick plug to my current project, actually, which is a feature film that's based on one of the episodes called I Love You, Maria. Um, and we're actually that's what I'm currently working on. We're gonna do a movie shooting in October based off that episode. It's one of our more popular episodes, and we thought we'd do a movie on it.
Okay. And you can check out Zoom on YouTube and
Yep,
also on Venmo. Is it Venmo?
Vimeo. Yeah.
Vimeo. So since we're on the topic of, Zoom and then you new ways of watching TV, I was wondering, do you because of the pandemic, a lot of people have been trying different ways of entertainment, like streaming services, Disney Plus, Hulu Plus,
Hmm.
things like that. There's a song called "Radio Killed the TV Killed the Radio Star," and it's like MTV killed, radio.
Hmm.
More people are watching
Yeah.
MTV than radio. So I wonder, what are your thoughts um on television and film, or even Hollywood as a whole, and the whole entertainment industry, and how we will be entertained. How do I ask this? Like, do you think that the streaming service will be the top dog? You know what I mean? And will
Yeah.
people stop going to movie theaters? Will we stop? Will Hollywood have to, maybe not shut down, but more people would want to produce content on YouTube and on all these new social media spaces, because Facebook they're building a little TV for their universe, and they have metaverse coming up too. So what are
Hmm.
your thoughts on that
Hmm.
in the entertainment industry?
Wow. Well, I have a lot of conflicting feelings about that, to be
Okay.
honest. I think streaming is amazing. I think it's great that, like, as a filmmaker right now, it's so easy to get your work out there and get eyeballs on it.
Mhm.
Um, it's a in a way, it's a great time to be alive and to be in this industry. At the same time, though, I do worry a little bit about, like, what you said about, like, the death of the movie theater. I love going to the cinema.
Yeah.
I go every week if I can. I almost feel like a hipster that talks about loving vinyl records, and
Hmm.
and that's kind of how I feel with the movie theater. I feel like it's such an experience to see a movie on the big screen with an audience that you don't get if you're just sitting at home
Right.
streaming it. But at the same time, I'm more likely to have a movie that I made streaming than I am to get it in a cinema. So,
Hmm.
like, I have very mixed feelings about it. I don't want to see the death of that, but I also like the opportunity that streaming has provided. Um, I think we need to make sure, since this is the world we're living in, we need to make sure it's ethical. Like, we're paying people what they need to be getting paid. Um, there were some issues with that, new media agreements and all kinds of stuff like that. So we need to make sure it's ethical. And I don't want to see the death of the movie theater and the death of physical media because I love to buy a DVD or a Blu-ray or whatever, so have something in my hands. I don't want to see the death of that. But at the same time, it is a kind of a lot of opportunity out there, and I think there's a positive and negative. It's really not a one-sided answer. How I feel about that, I feel two ways about it. I just I hope that we can usher in this new world
Hmm.
of opportunity, but not kill the old as well. Um, I do feel like there is gonna be. I almost worry more, not worry. I almost feel like there's gonna be more of a demise of television
Yeah.
than a demise of the movie theater, because I think there will still be people that go to the theater that want to see a movie with an audience.
Right.
But as far as like network TV goes, that's definitely seems to be going down. You know, young people aren't really paying for cable. We're all streaming stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the big change, and we're already heading in that direction.
Hmm. So yeah, I think would be a hybrid, if anything, of you know what I mean. Not
Hmm.
a complete. Because during the pandemic, a lot of people were saying that some people still want to go outside and experience actual air. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, because they have this thing that millennials and anybody after us, we just like to stay home and just be convenient with laptops and things like that. But I don't know. But the next question is, why do you like acting?
Well, it's helped me to understand people. I was a quiet kid, and it helped me to put myself in other people's shoes. Um, why does this person act this way? You need to understand people if you're going to act. And obviously, you can only see things from your own perspective, but you can try as best you can to see things from other people's perspectives. And I feel like acting really um, helps with empathy. And as a loner, at least when I was a kid, I was a loner, and it helped me become more sociable because I began to understand people more. Um, and so that was initially one of the things that really drew me to acting. And that's still one of the things I love. You know, this world needs empathy. It needs people who understand each other, and it needs love. And those are things that we can, if we open our hearts to our characters, maybe we can open our hearts to other people as well. So that's my number one thing I love about acting.
Okay. Um, and what genre do you usually act in? Is it comedy or a variety of genres?
It's a variety. I would say comedy is my number one love. I've been loving to make people laugh ever since I was very, very little. Um, but drama, comedy, and horror are basically my three things that I worked on the most. Less horror lately. Lately, it's been mostly drama and some comedy. Lately, it's mostly drama though. And I would like to start doing more comedy again because that really was my first love, and I'd love to go back to that.
Um, um, do you have any who inspires you within this acting career or film career? It can be anybody that you know or a celebrity.
Well, there are a lot of people I know that have inspired me. Yeah, my father's a writer, and an actor too, and he's been very inspirational. I've just various people I've worked with over the years, on stage and in film. Just getting to watch them work has it's been one of the biggest teachable moments in my life. As far as people that we all know, though, some of my biggest inspirations were Philip Seymour Hoffman. I saw him on stage when I was younger. I think I was about 15. I saw him on stage, and I didn't even know who he was at the time. I saw him in Chekhov's The Seagull, and there were all these famous people in it, and he was the only actor I didn't know who he was, and he blew me away. And after that, I was like, I gotta watch this guy's other work because he was just phenomenal. So he was a big inspiration for me. Robin Williams was actually a big inspiration for me. Um, and just right now, there's so many people. One of the jack of all trades that I really like right now is Mark Duplass is an actor, and he makes movies that are a little bit similar to the kinds of movies I make, a little bit bare bones. And he's also done some kind of COVID type movies too. So I would say he's an inspiration at the moment. And another one that was a big inspiration to me as a kid was Harrison Ford, strangely, because I don't make movies that like he makes, but he was an inspiration for me. And on a more obscure note, there was a ventriloquist who had a radio show. His name was Steve Charney, and I know ventriloquism on the radio sounds like the weirdest
It,
thing, but
I'm trying to
but
envision that,
I loved him.
visualize it.
Well, I mean, you just got to imagine it. But I did see him live. He actually is a ventriloquist. He wasn't lying. His name was Steve Charney. He had a show on the radio, on a radio station in Albany. I think it was WAMC. He had a radio show called Knock on Wood, and he did characters. It was kind of like Garrison Keillor did Prairie Home Companion. It was a little bit like that, but geared more towards kids. I would say geared more towards family. And that was actually probably my earliest childhood. Like, I want to do something like that. I want to do characters and voices. And when I started acting, like as a kid, that's what I thought acting was. I thought it was doing voices and doing accents, and yeah.
What do you think is the difference between acting in plays, like the technique, the practice, the routine, the auditions,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that? Acting in plays, in comedy, like stand up, or in comedic films uh and television. Is there a way you approach it differently, or is it all the same, do you think?
Oh no, it's all very different. I mean, you got to approach it all with the same passion, but it's so different. Theater, you rehearse, you rehearse, you rehearse. It's a lot of rehearsing, and then, like I said earlier, it's just ephemeral. It's just over. It's like what I what it's kind of akin to is like the Tibetan monks. They do the sand art, and it's so intricate and beautiful, and then they just destroy it. That's what theater is like to me. You create something beautiful and then it's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the most beautiful things you can do. I'm so glad I have a background in it. I want to do more of it again, because there's nothing more in the moment than theater. It's so present. It's so in the moment. Um, Film is not like that at all. You do it over. You do take after take after take. It takes all day to do like one scene sometimes. Um, Sometimes, most of the time. And yeah, it's very time consuming, but then it lasts forever. Um, and I can still talk about some movie that I did. Like today, I was talking about a movie I did back in 2014, and you can go back and watch that. You can't really do that with theater.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, there's such attention to detail in film and TV, and there's so many people. The acting isn't even like the biggest part of it. Like with theater, it feels like acting is the biggest part of it. With film and TV, it doesn't really feel that way. There's sound, there's lighting, there's so many people who help tell the story, and they're all doing such important work, and nobody can be minimized the job that they're doing. Um, so it really feels like a village, to that's creating this story. And also, there's so many people, you don't necessarily know who all of them are. In
Mm-hmm.
theater, you know who everybody is, and with a TV show, like, I'll be working on a show, then I'll come back, the next week or whatever, and it's like a new crew. It's like, well, I have to meet all these new people now. So yeah, and then stand up, which I have less experience in stand up, but I have done it, and that, I would say, that's the one that scares me the most, because you're just putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
and you can die up there, and but if you kill, it feels great. My first time I did pretty well. And then my second time I bombed. So I can say I know what it feels like to do pretty well and to not do well at all. And yeah, it's kind of scary. But you know, I have tremendous admiration for people that do it. I assume the more you do it, the easier it gets, like anything. Um, but yeah, I love stand up. I live in New York. I used to go to the Comedy Cellar like every week. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
just a
New
blast.
York. Oh, that.
Yeah,
I,
this comedy scene in New York is fantastic.
yeah, it's rough. I wonder if it's similar. Is it similar to like the Apollo, where the crowd is so intense, like you have to really show up for the performance, or they will boo you, throw you out, even if they had a chance.
I mean, it can be. Comedy Cellar is not really like that, if as far as I've seen, but I have seen what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it can be brutal, and you know,
Yeah.
it's so embarrassing to watch people die. I went to one. This wasn't quite. This wasn't like what you were saying with the Apollo, people getting booed, but I went to one comedy show where it was just a friend and me in the audience,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just us, and it's like every joke has to land or else they bombed, and they're just
Mm-hmm.
relying on our laughs, and that's just puts so much. I just felt so much pressure for these poor comedians. And you know, like when I go to a comedy show, I don't laugh at every joke normally because
Yeah.
I'm not the only person in the audience. So that was torture for us, and I assume them as well.
Yeah. So we got 10 minutes left, and to close out the
Okay.
show, that this is a good interview, by the way. Really, I really like the Zoom idea. I will be checking that out for real. Um,
Fantastic.
so what's the next question? What can you tell me? Or what is something you want your audience to remember you as, or remember you by, when you're long gone? As an actor, as a producer, a filmmaker, when people say, "Oh, that's Ken Holmes," what are some words, or what do you want people to say about you?
I definitely want people to remember me as an actor and as, I guess, most of all, a storyteller. So filmmaking, acting, I think of it all. It's just like just telling stories, showing characters and situations, almost like filmmaking, acting. It's all just like painting, broad
Mhm.
paintbrush, paint brush strokes. Um, and I hope that people will think that I added something to the scene, that I had my own voice, and that I brought forth something unique, whatever that is. I feel like every story I tell is a little bit different, but I hope that with each one, I brought something to the table that wasn't said before.
Okay. And where can people find you? Like, do you have any socials or a website? Where can people
Mhm.
get in touch? The audience get in touch.
Well, you can find me on Instagram. It's Ken Holmes is my main Instagram. I also have a backup account, just that's Ken R Holmes. So either one of those are my Instagrams. I also have a production company, Rain and Neon Productions. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, on IMDb, just look up Ken Holmes. I think most of my filmography is listed on there. And Zoom Shorts on YouTube and IMDb as well, and Facebook.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken Holmes, for this interview. I hope everyone is having a
Thank
great
you.
day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. All right. So see you until the next episode, people. Bye bye.
Cheers.